today is so heartbreaking because we've been writing about this for so long, and this just really feels like the final nail in the coffin.
When we weaken the Voting Rights Act, we don't just weaken one law, we weaken the very fabric of American democracy.
The Supreme Court just dealt a major blow to multiracial democracy in America. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 is the law that defeated Jim Crow, and the Supreme Court just killed it. For a century, Black people were systematically excluded from participation in American democracy through racial violence, but more commonly through race-neutral tricks like poll taxes and grandfather clauses, and also redistricting that diluted the Black vote without them ever having to talk about race explicitly. That's what Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, enacted federally, went after. These slippery tricks to destroy the political power of Black folks and other people of color, especially in the South. And it appears that the Supreme Court just took us right back to that time. As soon as the decision dropped, I knew exactly who I wanted to talk to. My colleagues, Ari Berman and Pema Levy. Okay, thank you all so much for making the time for this huge news coming out of the Supreme Court today. A bit unexpected. Are either of you surprised that this decision came down today?
I was a little surprised. I thought that if the Supreme Court was going to gut the Voting Rights Act, they would at least have enough decency to wait until the current round of redistricting is over. And the fact that they didn't wait, it just reinforces to me how partisan this court is.
If your partisan designs trump everyone else's rights, then you can just, under the guise of partisan gerrymandering, eliminate the voting rights of minority voters simply because, they don't vote for your party. It is absolutely a Jim Crow tool now.
These justices, particularly Chief Justice John Roberts, have had it out for the Voting Rights Act for 40 plus years. And so much of the stuff they're talking about dates back 40 years. For example, Alito writing that you can only prove racial discrimination in voting by showing intentional discrimination, which is nearly impossible to prove. That's what John Roberts wanted the Voting Rights Act to say in the early 1980s, and he was overruled by Congress. He lost that fight, and now 40 years later, they're essentially resurrecting the same standard that Congress overruled them on. So basically, it just gets to this larger point that Pema and I have both written about, which is the Supreme Court operates in a completely legal free zone. They're going to do whatever they want. They're going to reinterpret the 15th Amendment. They're going to reinterpret the Voting Rights Act. They're going to override the will of Congress just because they want to. And they're basically begging someone to stop them. And so far, no one's been willing to stop them in terms of their radical authoritarian agenda.
They basically took the 15th Amendment, which prohibits racial discrimination in voting, and they weakened it. Justice Kagan opens her dissent by asking us to imagine a hypothetical state. It's a rectangular state where the white majority is all throughout. And then in the middle, there's a single county where all the Black voters live in a circle. And because of the history of discrimination in that state, that is where all of the Black population is. And until today, that cohesive Black population would be able to elect the representative of their choice. Under today's decision in Calais, the state could slice up that circular district into 6 little pie slices, join them into districts with the majority white population, and they would no longer be able to elect the representative of their choice.
Now, what do you anticipate will happen to majority-minority districts across the South? What do you anticipate will happen to Black political power, Black representatives across the South?
We could see the largest drop in Black representation since the end of Reconstruction. We could lose a third of the congressional Black caucus. My expectations are that every Southern state will redraw their districts to eliminate majority-minority districts. There could be a situation, maybe not this year, but certainly in future cycles, where there could be no Black representatives from the South. And that is Jim Crow. That's exactly what happened in Jim Crow.
Do you know, or have you given thought to a way forward in a moment like this for those who are interested in a multiracial democracy prevailing in this country?
You're going to need organizing on the ground in the states that are most affected to try to protect the rights of historically disenfranchised and marginalized communities. States are going to have to take efforts to counteract what other states are doing to weaken voting rights. And I think we also need, as Pema said, a longer-term institutional reform.
If you were in the business of trying to undo what has just happened, you have to be thinking about a different court that can change it.
As long as we have a Roberts court, we are going to have a court that is hostile to the Voting Rights Act. And the only question is going to be, how far will they take it? So ultimately, I think this is going to take a combination of short-term organizing, absolutely, but also longer-term reform to try to get us out of this mess and to hold what has become a lawless and authoritarian court accountable.
Ari, Pema, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.